All right, I call the Village of Rhinebeck Planning Board meeting on November 15th, 2022 to order. First item on the agenda is Catherine Whitman, 39 Platt Avenue, site plan and historic demolition for the partial demolition for the structure. Do we have a motion to open a public hearing?
I'll make that motion.
Do we have a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Let's see if we have it.
Who was the second? Who was the second? John?
John.
Okay.
Yeah, thank you.
So, should I just represent from last time?
Sure.
This is the site here on the corner of Platt and Mulberry. This diagram is to show the number of two-story buildings on Platt in this block. The house faces Platt, and all of the lots shown in the green are the two-story houses, and the lighter purple are less than two. So we're proposing to make this one also a two-story. But keeping within some of the guidelines for historic houses, we're using the finishes requested in the guidelines. So we're using clapboard and windows that are oriented vertically rather than square or horizontal. This is the house now. This is the front facing Platt. This side faces Mulberry, and we're proposing an addition that joins the house to the garage along here. Here's the site plan showing the new front walkway, a parking area, a side entrance, and some plantings. And then the compressors here, which would be hidden from view from the street, and the propane tank here.
Is anyone here from the public to comment on this? Okay.
Do we need to open the?
We already opened it.
Oh, we opened the meeting.
The meeting's open.
Good.
And they open the public hearing.
Okay.
Mr. Chair, I have a signature of support from various neighbors as well as a letter of support from Mary Sipperly at 31 Platt Avenue. If any of the board members would like to review these, I have them here.
I think you sent them out. So does anyone from the board have a problem with, we're treading lightly because there's some ambiguity in the code about this is on the historic register, but not yet in the historic district because the village board hasn't expanded the historic district yet. So we're trying to tread lightly and just ask them to try to do the renovations that would be comparable when they finally are in the district, because they are on the historic register. So any questions on this from the board?
We got an opinion from the Village Land Use Council about our laws. And essentially, if I had to boil it down into a couple sentences, he said that the demolition law is tied to National Register properties. So it would affect this because it's on the National Register. The historic district law in the village is not tied, or is at least ambiguity, enough ambiguity that you couldn't enforce it. So the bottom line is we have to rule on demolition, but we can't rule on any additions or changes to the law or to the building, which puts us in a very awkward position.
Are you demolishing anything else that, there's been a lot of digging there for the last month or two.
Well, we already demolished this piece.
Right, so that's
which
gone.
was practically falling down anyway. And then the only other thing we'd be demolishing is this brick from here up, and then the roof. So, because we're gonna cut the brick off at one level.
And to go up to the second floor,
Yeah.
which will be clapboards.
So the demolition law, which is in effect on this building, says that it doesn't control anything, including windows or cornices or doors or any of the architectural features. It's only about the building mass. And partial demolition, it applies to partial demolition. So the roof and the breezeway, I don't think is original to the building anyway, is my guess. And that little peak, that
Right.
cross gable peak over the left side window on the front there. So it seems to me, I'll just throw out my opinion, is that if the roof is maintained as a gable roof, running the way it always was and just raised up a level, it's consistent with the massing of the building, it's just 2 stories instead of 1 story. And since our law is so ambiguous and that we are in the process of considering changes to it, I don't see how we can enforce it any more than that.
That's my feeling. I expressed that to them, that there are 4 houses on the corner there under construction, and you can't change the rules in the 5th inning of the game. So, you know, as I said, we're going to tread lightly with this. We are pleased, though, that you are going to have vertical windows and the clapboards for the siding, understanding it is on the register, the federal and the state register. So does anyone else have any comments about this?
So when you say that the peak, John, when we look at the proposed front elevation, so the original brick on the bottom stays, is that correct? Here.
Except for that little cross gable, yeah.
Yeah, and so there will be a second floor here which will have clapboard, and this extension here will also have clapboard.
Yeah,
Is that
I'm
correct?
sorry, on that extension, it used to be a garage. You can see the outlines of a garage door on the extension. No, on the front.
On the original,
Let me see if I can show you the picture. So where this window is.
Yes.
This was a garage door opening right here.
okay,
So when this part, we were going to
see.
take the brick off because we want it to look like its own element, not have, it's on a different plane than the
okay,
rest of
so that's
the,
this here.
of this ranch. It bumps forward. So just to make it read correctly, we want to take the clapboard all the way down and not
Again.
have that brick. And the brick wasn't really there because it was mostly a big garage door.
And again, we're not dealing with architectural features, only the building mass at this point. So in theory, we shouldn't pay too much attention to the change in materials, according to the way I read that attorney's letter.
I'm with you.
So I think we're pretty much all in agreement on that. So Brian, do we need 2 resolutions or just a resolution to approve the site plan and the partial demolition?
We would need to first close
The public
the
hearing?
public hearing, and then you guys need to vote to declare lead agency and vote on the neg deck. And then if you want to vote into resolutions to separate the 2, you have that discretion to do so.
So no comments from the public? Yes?
I am the neighbor across the street, and I would say that the house has been vacant for a long time.
His name
I'll
is
make
Yuri
a motion to
Stipa.
close the public hearing.
Do we have a second?
Second. Karen?
Karen seconds. All those in favor?
Aye.
The motion to declare lead agency.
I'll make that motion. Mike Gee.
Second, John.
All those in favor?
Aye.
A motion for a neg deck?
I'll make that motion.
Second, John.
Second, yep.
All those in favor?
Aye.
A motion to approve the partial demolition of the historic structure.
I'll make that motion. Mike Gee?
I'll second, Jeff.
All those in favor?
Aye.
A motion to approve the site plan for 39 Platt Avenue.
One
Well-
question about the side driveway. We talked about shielding that or making sure that it wasn't dominant from the road. Have you done anything in regards to that?
I think there are landscaping on it.
Has that been added, the landscaping along the street? Or?
I
It's there
had
last
that
time.
last time,
Yeah. I didn't see any changes.
So it's only the entrance.
So there will be a side entrance here. Is this
but,
correct?
yeah, the main side entrance is further up right there.
Right here?
Yeah.
Okay. So, and this will be some type of gravel parking area?
Yes, but usually the car would only be behind the other car in the.
Yes.
It seems like a lot of unnecessary gravel, but we're not supposed to be talking about site plan, so I'm just making a suggestion that if you could make that smaller, it would make the side of the house look better, I think. The more in green and the less gravel, the better. But we don't have, it's a single-family house, and if it's not in the historic district for site plan purposes, we don't have any jurisdiction over it, right?
Yes.
So do we even have to vote on the site plan?
I think because site plan is involved in chapter 64, I think
All right.
you would want to vote on it.
I'll make a motion to approve the site plan.
Do we have a second?
I'll second, Darren.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, good luck, and thank you for understanding the ambiguity.
Thank you.
Second item on the agenda is Alan Dakotas, Liz Mazzarella, Seth Stickle, Mark Rominsky, 56 Livingston Street.
I don't know if anybody here is here from the public. Would you like me just to briefly present the project?
Well, we have to open the public hearing. Do you have a motion to open the public hearing?
I'll make that motion. Mike Gee?
Second, Jeff.
All those in favor?
Aye.
So,
We could ask if anybody's here to speak to this.
anyone here? Okay.
You can make your presentation very short.
Make the presentation very short because we know what's happening.
So we took a look at all the items that were brought up at the last meeting. I don't know if you saw that in our most recent cover letter. I don't know if you want to run through those quickly. Go ahead and do that. Several of those items are one was the chimney removal, which we had discussed, that the chimney is non-conforming part of the structure and was probably put in at a later time.
Responses.
The chimney exists here, and will be removed. The shutter removal, the shutters that are existing on the building are not functional. They don't actually function. Shutters cover the entire window, so we plan to keep those. The change in shape of the north facade dormer window, we discussed that. Everybody seemed to be in agreement that that was acceptable. There was questions about the heating system, so we dug into that a bit more. Went ahead and defined the Mitsubishi system that is both mini split and multi-zone mini split application. So all of the interior chases and plumbing will be in the inside of the building. We propose to place that on a concrete pad behind the fence in this area. There's a bit of green space here, located here, so we'll be placing that so that it is screened. The electrical will come out of the building directly to that unit. Everything else will go right back in and be run through the walls. So
Thank you.
nothing on the exterior.
Mini splits are our biggest challenge these days.
So what, John, I'm sorry, just once more, Seth, this is on the southwest, the exterior portion will be on the southwest corner and just west
So a
of,
condenser will need to be placed on
Yeah.
a pad
Yeah.
or some sort of a rigid structure. That will be located behind the fence in this area here.
okay.
We can take a look at it on the site plan, it might just be a little easier to see that way. So there is a considerable space here behind that fence line where we'll be able to place that pad mounted, so it will be screened.
Okay, any other questions from the board?
The point that came up at the last meeting about perhaps lowering the stone plant, here, number 7 on page 3.
So we've agreed to go ahead and lower the planters
Okay.
to expose a bit more of the porch. Taking a look at it as it exists and is designed, it comes to about the rung of the first tread. We're going to lower that down another tread. So an additional 7 inches. Let me see it so I can read exactly. It will expose, looks like approximately like 7 inches, almost 8 inches of the porch. We'll be able to just reduce that height. As we discussed, it's not a uniform height across the entire front, so it's easier to talk about it from the porch elevation down than it is a standard height. It will be 2.5 feet because that wouldn't work aesthetically.
Any other questions from the board?
Just with respect to the mini split, I think the only condition I'd want to put in the resolution is just that if there's a need for any additional outdoor units, they also be kept behind the fence. And I understand the concept of 8 heads being able to be served off of the same outdoor unit. Just in application, sometimes that's difficult because of where the indoor units are in relation to the outdoor units. So sometimes it necessitates multiple outdoor units, even though you can run up to 8 heads off of the hyperheat pump outdoor units. So I think just a simple condition that any of that type of apparatus just lives behind the fence. And I do appreciate you guys doing the research up front to figure out what the systems would be.
All of that would be placed in this area. So
Right, so whether it's 1 or 2 or 3, whether it's that area, I'd be fine saying just behind the fence line, towards the rear of the house or the side yards of the house and just not in front of that fence line. Just in the event that that comes up, I just would want the resolution, I think, to say that. And then, in just a general comment, I mean, it's an extremely thorough application, and I know you folks have been through a lot. I haven't been here for all of it, but I do appreciate the effort to answer all the questions and think these things through. And I know you've been through multiple public hearings and different boards, and it is a very thoughtful site plan and a very thoughtful application. And I did appreciate the effort that went into responding to all of the comments, one by one, and then that was the public, and then applying the same thing to the comments of the board this latest time around.
Thank
So
you.
I didn't want that to be lost in the process.
Appreciate it.
Just remind me what the siding's gonna be,
That would be clapboard?
clapboard wood?
Yep.
Right.
Can we make a motion to close the public hearing?
I'll make that motion.
Whoops, we had a tie.
I heard Mike first and then.
So Mike made the solution, John seconded. All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay, do I have a motion to approve the site plan for 56 Livingston Street
With the condition of
with the conditions that Darren specified about the additional mini splits being behind the fence?
I'll make the motion, John.
I'll second, Jeff.
All those in favor?
Aye.
There's one
Good
more
luck.
vote. You guys have to vote neg. You guys never did.
I'll make the motion for a neg deck.
Do you have a second?
Second, John.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Just to cover all the bases, demolition as well. We discussed that at the last meeting. There was no formal resolution of that, so I just wanted to ask about that as well.
May I make a motion for the demolition of the one-story rear addition?
Correct.
Second, Jeff.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
You can make the note for the record that these are out of sequence, but will be put in sequence in the minutes.
We had
Thank you.
there are 2 items and about a dozen ayes so far. Good luck, guys. You were very patient with this process,
Thank you.
and the project turned out quite well.
Yes.
The next item is renovations to the hospital. With a trailer and a walkway, keep people out of the rain. Do you have a motion to open the public hearing for the hospital?
I'll motion, Jeff.
John, second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Hello,
Hello.
Mike Roberts from Optimus Architecture. Thank you for allowing us to appear. Just to recap briefly, Rhinebeck Hospital in New Hampshire, they are looking to bring in a temporary PET-CT trailer with a temporary connector, and will occur in this existing rear courtyard of the hospital. The hospital is situate on, I believe, 9.59 acres, and the hospital itself, I think, has a footprint of about 99,000 square feet, 99,511, something like that, in footprint. And I believe the total square footage of this temporary trailer and connector only equates to about 778 or something like that. There will be no foundations. It's a temporary trailer sitting on the existing pavement within that courtyard, which also visually shields that PET-CT from any neighboring residences and even the street out here in Montgomery.
Is there anyone here for the public hearing on the hospital?
Surprise.
No takers, I have three of them.
Motion to close the public hearing.
Oh, you beat me to it. Do we have a second?
I'll second that.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, anyone else have any questions? We've been over this a bit. I think it's
Do we
good.
have to do anything other than approve?
Approve the special use permit if there's nobody else with, questions, issues, design stuff,
Did
and,
we do the neg deck? Probably doesn't need it.
no, probably
There's
not.
no site disturbance.
Yeah, yeah, and it's too small.
Are we making a zoning referral on this one, a ZBA referral, because it says area variance
I
on the,
think we don't
You
need
guys
the area.
dealt with that.
We did, we
so
don't
that's,
need
we
the area
established that's
variance.
not needed.
Of course, in that way.
Okay.
Okay, do I have a motion to approve the site plan to add the PET-CT scanner and a walkway to the hospital, to the site plan for the hospital?
I'll make that motion, Mikey.
Do you have a second?
I'll second Darren.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Got 3 items, it's like almost 15 ayes.
22 minutes.
We're going to set a world record.
Wait till we get to the
15 ayes in
signs.
2 minutes. Good luck.
Okay, great, thank you very much. So that's site plan approval and special use permit?
Yes,
Excellent. Our next step, then we can just have him
do it.
here to go do it. Okay. Thank you very much.
We'll process the building permit application, Patrick. The building inspector will be in touch on Thursday.
Okay, because I believe Ray Bennett from the advance had already applied for it. I think that's what.
Yes,
instigated-
that's what triggered this, yes.
Okay. Gentlemen, have a,
Thank you.
Thank you.
Next item on the agenda is not a public hearing. It's 8-10 Chestnut Street, site plan, renovation to the existing house, porch addition, and restoration of existing 2-car garage.
Like the official evil, but maybe it'll work.
Do we have the plans here?
Sure.
We got lots of plans.
We got lots of
Which
plans.
one shall we bring up?
I don't know.
Warren?
Yeah, I'm not quite
The most
sure.
recent one.
It would be,
November 10th here, the top one?
yes,
Yeah, it should be November,
that one.
This one.
yeah.
So we are abandoning the idea of the 3-car garage with the,
Right, right. So after further reflection, Samantha Cooney, who can't be here tonight, she's got COVID, which means everybody's getting out, decided she really doesn't need a garage with an accessory apartment. So we're going to leave the existing garage where it is. At some future date, we may come in to move the overhead door to the center, but we're not even doing that right now. It's going to leave it alone. And there are no changes to her plans for the house, which basically involve putting a second story over a current 1-story piece on the back, and then pushing out a new 1-story piece for a rear screen porch. So we kind of, I go through the drawings again, we went through the Brian, last time, we're going to remove the asbestos shingle siding. We're going to, if the existing siding underneath is in good enough condition, we'll salvage reuse that or replace it strategically as needed. If for some reason it's all in terrible shape, which is rare, but it does happen, then we would put new wood cedar siding on the house. That's the plan to basically restore and make functional the double hung windows and to match them in the back where we're pushing out the back. Basically to keep the as many of the original period elements in the house on the house and to replicate or duplicate them where we're doing new work on the house. And in the process, we're changing it from a two-family house that had 4 bedrooms, 2 kitchens, and 4 baths to a one-family house with 4 bedrooms, 4.5 baths, and 1 kitchen. And the net change in square footage on the 2 floors, we're adding about 1,130 square feet, plus a larger porch on the back. But there's no change again in the garage. The one thing we do have, though, in the back is a little shed that's going to be in the way of the new septic system. That shed is listed on the original documentation for the historic district as a non-contributing element, but time has passed, so by now everything is old enough to be potentially contributing. That doesn't appear to sit on a foundation, it's kind of askew, and doesn't seem to be of any great significance, but I don't think we can get in the septic system and have a reserve area that we need for this, and keep that practically on the property line at the rear. So there is a demolition component to this too, being the removal of that shed.
And what's happening with the existing garage, which is actually on the neighbor's property?
No, there was a previous, this was when the Church of the Messiah owned the building next door as the parsonage at one time. And then they subdivided. They made a lot line adjustment at the time that's in the county's records.
Oh.
And jogged
did
the
that.
lot line around it. So the existing garage is entirely on this lot, but not by a lot. But we're not proposing to change anything there. So it is compliant in terms of, there's nothing over the property line anymore. And now, of course, her parents own the other property, but that's irrelevant because that won't always necessarily be the case. But there is no non-compliance right now in terms of the...
Warren, could
Yeah.
you provide us with a copy of that? Because I look back in the minutes and I don't remember anything being addressed for the old house for the rector, the old rector house, addressing anything to do with that.
Well, it went to the county, and I thought
Right.
I had sent you a copy of the survey that Messiah had done. But if not, I can certainly do that.
I remember us discussing that and them saying that they were going to subdivide it and make it so that it was moved back from, because I think the property line went right through part of the building by a few inches.
So there was some discussion on
Yes.
that, Mike, but it then transitioned to discussion about the cleaners, because that's what the subdivision
Right.
was
We did the
for.
subdivision to break the cleaners off of the church.
They subdivided both the dry cleaners property and the house next door.
Because I also talked to Marie Welsh,
Mhm.
and she just remembers about the cleaners and creating a lot for the cleaners,
So can you,
separate from the
Maybe
parish
it was
hall.
in here, I don't,
And
I
I
don't
can
remember.
send you a survey that I downloaded from the county, so
Okay.
somehow I got through the process to get to that point and got filed with the county clerk.
parcel access has it junked around the garage too?
It does. I mean, that's obviously not as accurate, but there is a file. The survey for this property most recently was done by John Decker. The original old survey for Messiah was done by Charles Belucas, and then Marie Welch did the subdivision, as Ryan noted.
Right.
But it certainly seemed to address this property along with the dry cleaners property. But that's the way I read it.
So Warren, the proposed paved driveway here,
Yes.
is that a different outline, a different silhouette than the original? Because you decided, originally there was going to be a 3-car thing here.
Correct.
So is this a different paved driveway
Right.
footprint?
So the current driveway comes straight back hard against the house there, which is the black line.
Yes.
And then for the 3-car garage scheme, we were coming back closer to the adjoining property line with the neighboring house of 6 Chestnut. That still seems like a better place to enter the property, but because we're not changing where the garage is or the facing of the garage door, there has to be a backup space from the garage And then, so the driveway that gets shifted over has to kind of come back and enter
Yeah.
the area that's backed by the garage now.
So this 5-foot setback, is that, do we, refresh my memory, I guess, Ryan, does the setback apply to a paved, non-impervious?
No.
No.
So it doesn't matter?
Yeah, there's no setback for driveways.
Okay. And this shaded area here, I see the pink outline here is the new porch that will go across the complete width of the back of the house. And what's this shaded area?
Well, so what you're seeing underneath that shade area that's gray is an existing one-story addition with a bathroom at the back of the existing house. That's being removed, and the new profile of the back of the house is running to the lower line, so there's a mudroom on the left that's white, and then the red shaded area is the porch. So it's technically not interior space, it's just covered spaces.
Well, I thought the proposed porch went the whole width of the rear.
No, I'll show you the back of the house.
Yeah, let's take a look at those.
Yeah, show us, do you have a drawing of what's being demolished?
Was that
Do you have a view of what's being demolished, a 3D?
the little piece in the back? I don't.
Okay.
I have probably a photograph somewhere, but it's a much later addition. Basically, it doesn't have a basement under it. It's just tacked on the back as like an extra bathroom in the first floor. And that currently
Yeah, okay.
sits in a corner back here. And so there's a proposed for a new mudroom here, and then a screen porch
Schematics.
on this side.
Oh, I'm in the wrong, there we are, 810. Okay, so this,
Right, so here's the entrance to the mudroom, and there's a screened-in porch.
I see. Okay, I see, so I see oh, I get it. So that's why the screen porch didn't look that big. The addition, the roof line of the addition will run the full width of the back.
The addition roof line runs all the way across.
Right.
So the only changes to the front of the house are the two windows over the porch are being enlarged to match the others.
Yes, and we're pretty sure that when we take the siding off, we're going to see that they were bigger windows they were originally due.
Yeah,
So currently, the shutters on the house are only on the front, but these drawings are showing shutters on the front and all of the other windows. Is that the intention?
We're going to add them, yeah, I don't know if some of them don't seem to show shutters. Where they're double windows, sometimes shutters look kind of questionable, but certainly we're going to add them on these windows as well. Not on a day, obviously, because they can't function there. I mean, I'm not opposed to putting them here, but, you know, they have to be pretty wide to actually close over those windows, very functional.
yeah, they have to match the proportion of the windows, or don't
That's
put
the
them
goal,
on.
is
They have to look real, as if you could really close them
Potentially be
and cover the
functional,
window.
even if they're never going to be closed.
Right.
I mean, here's a double window with shutters, so it certainly can be done. These, I don't know that they ever had them, they have this interesting little pediment over them.
That would be my next point. There are so many little pieces of nice architecture there. I think we as a board have to make a site visit and document all of the architectural elements on the outside of this house that we feel are important, that we want preserved, so it's part of the record, so that we don't have a repeat of what we had with Buddy Rogers, where we pointed out things, and then a new house was built, and nothing except for the 5 original windows were there. So I'm going to suggest that we go and say, we want to keep that, and that's part of the record, and they don't disappear during construction, because this is going to be a really massive construction. And I know how contractors are. Oh, quick, oh, it's damaged, throw it away. Or, oh, we can't find that, so.
Makes sense. How does the board feel about that?
Does that mean you're willing to go and make the
I can go
documentation,
and-
Mike?
I can go, but I mean, you know,
be
we're a
happy to
body of
follow.
5.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I'll go with you.
I think it makes sense to do that.
Yeah.
There's a lot of little nice things on this house that, you know, were put on originally, and it's been kind of lived in for 100-plus years, and, you know, but they're still there, and I don't want them to, you know, to disappear. I think, you know, you know,
Why don't we send 2 people so we don't have a quorum
okay,
That's
to
an
do
idea.
a site inspection?
All right, so Jeff and Michael are going to go do it?
okay.
Sure, unless anyone else wants to.
I'm happy to go or sit it out. Have faith in you guys.
David doesn't want a quorum. It's got to be 2.
Yeah, you guys go.
Okay.
Otherwise, I think you're on the right track.
Yes.
Yeah, I think this is very good. I just think that they want to take a quick peek at it and make a note in the approval that this, and this will be kept or incorporated in the new structure. And then we can approve it at the next meeting. All right, so you have to, I guess, call Warren or call,
I can handle the
okay, Ryan will coordinate it
correspondence,
then.
Okay.
scheduling.
Okay? All right. We'll put you on the agenda for December
6th.
6th, and then we can approve this. But it's a good job, Warren. Really, that's good.
Thank you, Warren. Very nice.
Okay. Next item on the agenda is timely signs. We're making a change to an existing sign on the financial business on
Hi everyone, Tyson from Timely Signs. Proposing changing the upper existing JSA sign to Long Wave Financial. We'd be replacing it with the same production specs. And actually, the sign is a little bit shorter in height than the existing one. And the second page, we're adjusting the window lettering as well to be a little bit smaller and obviously go for Long Wave Financial.
This is a white background.
Correct, matching the Sustainable Hudson Valley sign that's existing below.
I always suggest you do a little off-white, because a white sign always looks like a temporary piece of paper. It's funny. So just a little cream in there helps, but that's your choice.
Okay.
Gives it a little warmth.
any other questions or comments from the board?
So this new sign, same silhouette, simply replacing the old sign.
Correct, it's actually a little bit shorter in height, because I believe it's 24 by 24, and that's gonna be a 24 by 20. Same production specs, carved, raised oval.
So all the calculations are what they were, I presume. Okay?
Have a motion to approve the sign for Long Way Financial, 7 Livingston Street.
I'll make that motion. Jeff?
Second, John.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you, everyone.
Thanks, Dustin.
Next one is a sign change for M&T Bank.
Good evening, board members. My name is Brandon. I'm the representative for the application for the M&T Bank. And it's gonna be in 6377 Mill Street. What we're gonna do is just change an existing sign for a new one. It's gonna be actually the same color. It's gonna be white, and that's it.
Larger,
Is it the same
Larger.
size?
Yes.
It's bigger.
bigger.
A little bigger. Do they have the calculations for the square footage?
They're definitely in there.
There it is. So.
Still have 12 feet.
Oh, 64, so that's a huge building. Yeah, so the square footage is not a problem.
They also have a variance to cover this signage as well. Previously approved.
Seriously, for variance. So go up, can you go up a little bit and see just a quick look at the signs, so that we see the two differences? There they are. So it's a little bit bigger,
It's quite a bit bigger.
quite a bit bigger.
But the little one looks actually too small for the wall.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it does.
The new one looks maybe a little big, too big for the wall, but they have
Yeah, the
the
space.
square footage so they can use it if they want it. It's not oversized, I don't think.
Yeah.
Well, no, the existing one really does look out of proportion.
Never noticed it, but it does.
I think if you blew back and saw the whole frontage, the sign wouldn't,
Doesn't look as big.
yeah, wouldn't look as dominant as it does in that photo.
Do we have a motion to approve the sign for M&T Bank at 6377 Mill Street?
I'll make that motion, Mikey.
You have a second?
I'll second Darren.
Aaron seconds. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Should be keeping track of the ayes. All right, good luck, thank you.
Thank you.
Everyone.
Thank you.
Last item on the agenda is 34 Platt Avenue. Again, in the gray area here.
Yes. Good evening, gentlemen. My name is Yuri. I'm at 34 Flat Avenue. I don't have any large signage. I'm going to kind of talk you through what I'm proposing to do up there. What I'm proposing to do is build a 5 by 17 kitchen slash mudroom expansion on the side of the existing home. I guess if you look up in the right-hand corner, on the right side will be about a 5-foot by 8-foot kitchen bump out. I'm sorry, approximately 40 square foot kitchen bump out, and on the left-hand side of the existing structure would be about the same size, but contain the mudroom.
Is he demolishing, are you demolishing anything? Is that-
No, I'm not. I'm coming out from the side of the house 5 feet.
But you're cutting a hole in the side of your house to create the 5-foot bump out.
Correct.
Yeah.
Correct, yeah.
So this, this portion here, this is what you're proposing?
Yeah.
And the kitchen.
And the key.
And the kitchen,
Yeah.
So this whole,
Okay, so right here is that little window here, is that correct?
Yes, sir.
Can you bear with me a sec? I got a picture here that might give us a little more context. Desktop, where are we? Okay, this is the house.
Yes.
Yeah, I took this today. So basically, you're going to remove this window,
Yes, sir.
this door, and this window.
The posterior window is going to stay.
This window?
Yes.
is it gonna be moved out or just stay in between the
No,
walls?
it will stay. So that's an existing bedroom. And if you
Okay.
notice on the outside of the specs for the new plan, that'll be mudroom, and there's 2 large windows in there. So the thinking was to still get as much
Yeah.
light into that bedroom as possible.
The green board was already expansion on the roof line, is that what was done?
Yes, yes.
So you extended the roof that was done?
Right, so the initial project was started sometime mid-COVID.
Yeah, that's been there for a long time.
Yeah. And then actually, we were ready to side the last portion of the house, and I thought of this idea of the mudroom expansion, I'm sorry, kitchen and mudroom expansion.
So in that photo, you said the leftmost window on the side of the house would remain because it's a bedroom window.
Correct.
Now we're looking at the bump out here. Here's the 5-foot width.
Yes, sir.
And there was a window here you're removing?
Yes, so that existing wall that's on the new structure will run basically midline where that existing window is.
I see. So there's the 5 by 8. And so this window here, that's not the bedroom window, is it?
No, it is not.
That's,
Yes.
do you have like a kind of a mating? In other words, the bedroom window you said will stay on the facade,
On the interior.
on the interior. So basically, the inside wall of the mudroom is going to have a window to the bedroom.
Correct.
And then you're going to have opposite that window to the bedroom, you're going to have a matching window on the bump out.
Yes.
Let's remember that we are only here to talk about demolition. Because we don't have actually any purview over windows or
Okay.
additions.
Is there any demolition except removing?
Just the
window.
interior, what will now be an interior wall, what was previously an exterior wall to expand the kitchen.
Yes, so there's that 8-foot distance, if you, see where the marker is, the 8. So that,
this?
essentially, yes,
Yeah.
that.
That'll be
that
taken out.
span- Correct, sir.
And moved up,
So that span is 8 foot that's going.
yeah.
I
We
see.
have done many such expansions in the back of houses and on historic structures in the past, to bump out kitchens, to bump out
Yeah, this-
a master bedroom, to bump out a bathroom, to bump out, Rachel bumped out a bathroom, you know, a lot of things we've done in the past on the historic structure, so I don't think we have much to say about this within the code, within whatever. are
Yeah,
the
in terms of
ambiguity.
demolition, this is pretty minor
Right.
and won't be seen or noticed by
Anybody?
anybody. It doesn't change the character of the
It's fairly
house.
visible, but yeah, it's minor, yeah.
I'll make a motion to approve the demolition, the partial demolition permit.
I'll second that.
Do we have to do anything else?
If you wanted to do site plan, you did site plan for the neighbor across the street of Platt Avenue, you can.
Okay, so all those in favor?
Aye.
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 Now, do we have a motion for the site plan approval for 34 Platt Avenue?
I'll make the motion. Darren?
Second,
John?
all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. This has to break the world's record for aye. Thank you.
Thank you.
You can go.
Okay, so where does this leave us now when the house probably in the 20s, that's for sale, sells?
You're all right.
Okay.
You're okay.
Thank you.
Thank you, Joe.
Thanks for coming in.
We'll start processing,
Okay.
and we should have something by Thursday or the end.
Again, nothing until
Thank
they,
you, Yuri.
Thank you very much. Nice to meet everyone.
until they either modify the code or approve the expanded bubble. We just, again, look at what they're doing in terms of demolition. I mean, these people are being nice, they're using clappers, they're using vertical,
Right.
because it's on the register, and the architects are sensitive to that, and so we're winning it in that direction. And the porch on the corner, the only porch in the village has been removed on the Polotai house, and they built a little peak, and they're putting actual front deck on, you know, with porches on it, which is sort of nice, but then the front porch, the front deck that they put up there previously.
The one on the corner, again, opposite the brick one, corner of Mulberry, which is next to Yuri's house. If you drive by there now, they kind of got the garage door boarded up with a,
I asked Ryan
with a-
about that just
yeah.
as well, where you were setting up, and he said, it's temporary. I
It's
said,
so.
there's a door there.
So it's just like a
when they park the
construction-
cars, there's a door in front of the garage now.
Yeah.
And I said, where are they gonna park the cars? Don't we have ruling, it's a corner property, so what's the front yard, where do you park the cars?
Yeah.
And Ryan said, no, they put a little door there temporarily to get in and out of the construction, but they're getting a garage door. And it will be a garage, so it's not a problem. Because front yard, because I tried to talk to, I guess I talked with Jeff, I talked with Tim Decker, but, you know, the rules for the village still apply. The no front yard parking, the garage has to be behind the front plane of the house. All those rules for the whole village still apply to everything, and then the historic ones apply to the historic district. And if they would expand the bubble, or if they would do, define the ambiguity and say, any house on the historic register, which is only the 125 in the new expanded district, have to come to the planning board for approval. They could change that, but that'd be a proposal and scheduling the public hearing and the input from the public hearing, and then it could take months.
Yeah.
so, I'm not sure I quite follow. So take an example. That vacant lot on Mulberry between Platt and Chestnut where they
That's
tore the
dirt.
house down?
Dirt is not on the historic register. That's the
Okay.
problem. I said to Lydia, what are you gonna do?
Yeah.
That's dirt. You can't say, it's not in the historic district, and it's not on the historic register.
Yeah.
It's a field of dirt. They could build a black house with picture windows. We can't stop
So
that.
as long as
Until
they satisfy the underlying code, not the historic district overlay
The
code.
garage is in the front, no. You know, think front yard parking, no. But anything beyond that, so the key thing is not changing the ambiguities in the code. Key thing is expanding the bubble. Brian's gonna get this stuff to you that I got from Jennifer Betzworth a year or so ago, with all the pictures, all the maps, all the descriptions, the whole spreadsheet, everything, so you can see it all.
Put it on Google Drive?
Yeah, I might even
You're
have to.
getting good at this, Brian,
I
by
might
the
have to
way.
break it up,
Uh-huh.
even to put it on Google
It's too
Google
big.
Drive, because it's
The
like
pictures.
it's 175 pages.
Wow. Oh, right.
It's 175 pages.
It's all the photographs Neil took of
So-
the houses in 2020, photographed every building. And then there's various maps from Jennifer Betzworth, but there's about 12 maps, but one is the map that actually shows the expanded bubble. And then there's a spreadsheet which describes them all, and then there's the detailed description of every single property and the date they were built and so on. So I got that to Ryan, he's gonna send it out through Google Docs, or several chunks of Google Docs, you'll have all the data. The simple thing is expanding the district, and if they would do that, there'd be no, because there are no houses on the historic register that are not in the 500 that are in the expanded district, and we have one thing to deal with.
So,
Oh, go ahead, John.
have you heard how soon they're gonna be able to reconcile the laws and make them consistent, so we have
I don't know.
we know what we're doing?
They said they're gonna work on it, but that will require at the December board meeting discussing it, maybe scheduling a public hearing for January, and, I don't know. David Gordon's aware of this.
Is he gonna write the new law?
I don't know. Apparently, they said this came up in discussion to try to clarify all the historic district stuff in the code to understand the law for the Brogan Center, if they were going to make changes to the zoning code for that, to really understand all this historic stuff. And
I think there's a piece, though, that we're missing, even if we add the new properties in and we make it clear that we have the authority to regulate them. The problem is we're still dealing with this 1930s design book, for lack of a better term, right? We don't have a design book, but the plat application tonight, Catherine Whitman's application, I mean, she said that they tried to conform with the 1930s provision in the code, which on that house, it's a cape, I think it works, but, there's this little bit of Frankenhouse thing that we're potentially creating
Yeah.
here, which is pretty concerning that, these, like them or not, 50s, 60s, 70s houses are going to come in and try to comply with 1930s architectural regulations. And I'm a little worried that without the tools for those houses, we're going to be creating some pretty ugly.
Well, there's another way to do it, instead of just fold these in and say, we're gonna have the same rules for everything. We could actually, you can make a local historic district that's different than the National Register district. And that's what I would suggest, is that, so we go through the expansion and pick out the ones that are consistent with the historic village of Rhinebeck. And only apply the historic district, the local zoning, to that subset of what was approved up to 1970s.
Makes sense.
So they did no discernment, they just said it was built before 70, it's in. I think we should go through and say, okay, these houses on Oak Street are in because they are good, architecturally have architectural features to them, that, and maybe if we want to pick out one or two ranch houses that are somehow distinctive amongst all the rest of the ranch houses and capes.
There's a few interesting ones out there, yeah.
And so we could come up with a subset and say, okay, this is the new historic district for local zoning, and we will have full control over those, demolition and site plan. And the rest of the ones who are on the National Register but really aren't architecturally interesting or distinctive in any way, can have that honor but have no restrictions on them, and so they're not burdened by this sort of, how do we apply historic standards to something that is a 1965 non-distinctive ranch?
Makes sense.
you could also do the reverse, and that is have the village local district expand beyond what's on the historic register. I asked Jennifer Betzworth, what about
Yes.
Montgomery Street? There's some beautiful houses there, the hospital one that knocked down. And she said, the hospital ruins it all, I'll never get it through the SHPO board. Just attended one meeting with Neil Lawson and Jennifer Betzworth. I said, what about Mill? I mean, from the Better House down to Parsons, has like 7 gorgeous houses. It needs to be contiguous, or else the SHPO board wouldn't
Yeah, we
approve
don't
it.
have to comply with
I
that.
can't do it. So we don't have to. We could go, do what John said, and then the reverse as well, and say, there are several houses, we'd like a section of the lower part of Montgomery added And we'd like Mill added from the Benner House to South Parsonage with those 7 beautiful houses added to the Village Historic District coming under our code, even though they're not on the National Register. So we
Yeah.
could do both things.
By the way,
I think it was the October 3rd special trustees meeting that Lydia gave the presentation on the historic district expansion.
It's very positive.
And one of the results of that, if I recall correctly, was that Lydia and Brant Nunicker were going to get together and develop what they called a pattern book.
Right.
For
To-
design standards.
What she wrote about and asked
For
for.
design stand, yeah. So what that, if that comes about, that would mean then that if the map is just encompassing everything instead of selectively, John, I'm guessing that means that this pattern book for design standards would address architectural types.
Yes.
It would address the
That
vacant lot
wouldn't
on
be,
Mulberry.
federals or, they could be.
Yeah, 'cause we don't
But
have
do you know if there's anything happening with that, Ryan?
The only thing I know is Brant requested some information that he did not have previously, and I know he's been looking at, design criteria or standards from the 50s and the 70s that, I guess other municipalities have implemented or, I don't know if he's reached out to Dutchess County Planning or not, for assistance there, but that's as far as I know. I mean, if anyone wants to check, that October 3rd meeting is up on YouTube, on our YouTube page. If anyone wants to watch that, special meeting of the mayor and the trustees.
Rhinebeck doesn't have a type, like, they're all Cape Cod houses. There's colonial and federal and, just old house, like mine from 1810. They're not specific, so it's hard to say, Jeff's house in Arts and Crafts. A nice example of an Arts and Crafts house, but it's brand new. And a couple of doors up, there is an Arts and Crafts house, that is an old one. So we don't have a particular, I lived for 30 years in a brownstone in Brooklyn, and my house was brown, and that was it. There were hundreds of them, and that was all. Very simple, there was no issues like this coming up. If it wasn't painted, you couldn't paint it. If it was painted, you could paint it brown. And that was the only law in all of Park Slope. We don't have like a development. My former brother-in-law lived in Roosevelt, New Jersey, which was this crazy thing where Roosevelt had planned to build a bunch of these brick buildings like put them in Arizona, and they ran out of money or something. They put them in Roosevelt, New Jersey, and then these square things that look like an Arizona desert house. And people have done, it's a historic district now, people have added a second floor. They've done all kinds of strange things to these original 100 or so desert houses. So,
That's where the pattern book comes in handy if we end up in that direction.
what does Rhinebeck look like?
Well, yeah.
And what would we like to sort of, even though it's fake or it's new, like the lot on Chestnut, let it look like some of the houses nearby or in the village.
Yeah, eclectic's fine, as long as it's not eclectic on the same structure. But the other thing that's interesting is the National Park Service has taken landscapes into consideration now as part of National Register properties and even on their own. So if we decide to make our own list, there might be certain trees or landscapes or attributes of structures we don't particularly love, but that might also be something we
There's
consider.
Crystal Lake.
Right.
That was built, that's the oldest thing in Rhinebeck. The dam was built in 1700 by Henry Beekman. That's one of the oldest structures in the village, is Crystal Lake and its dam. So that's been added, and she also suggested you guys should get together and do the cemetery, because that's one of the very critical people are buried in the cemetery.
Because those are part of the character of the village too.
That's part of the character of the village. You
We
guys
don't have a
think
way to
about
regulate them
Adding
currently.
the cemetery to the historic register, because it's,
But the new stuff up on Platte and in that area, because those are undersized houses generally on larger lots, we're gonna see a lot of what just happened tonight. Where
Agreed.
people are gonna either wanna knock them down and put up something new, or add up something big on top or behind. And under our current standards, it's impossible to
Right.
We have to do what we
approve
did
that.
tonight and sit on our hands, or be glad that they gave us 1930s details on a 1950s Cape Cod.
And the same thing, if someday you want to jump to the other side of the tracks, meaning the kill, and you start moving in the southerly direction, those are a lot of beautiful homes, but very small lots on Violet Road.
Yeah, why weren't they, a lot of those are from the 70s, aren't they?
And some have been done really tastefully, like there's some really tasteful renovations in character with the bungalow styles that they are, that,
Yep.
you know,
And again, a very
we'll
small
steer them
lots.
away from if they come here based on our current law.
Because down the line, a house across from me, split level, it's a beautiful example of a split level ranch, they could say 50 years from now. So the goal line keeps moving.
Yeah.
As time goes by.
The problem is, I think, in order to do anything creative, you would have to hire somebody who has a little bit of expertise in this stuff, to do a good pattern book, to make make a historic district nomination for the Mill Street buildings, for instance. To either that, or you have to find a really good volunteer who has experience,
Right.
who's willing to put in hours.
Or just a
And
gigantic book.
what I'm
we can take
afraid is
pages
what's
out
gonna
of.
happen is we're gonna get a lawyer from Hyde Park to change the law, to reconcile the two laws, and that's all we're gonna get, and then they're gonna dump on the planning board all these new applications that we won't be able to really function with. So, it seems to me we should let the village board know that there are other options than just opening up all National Register nominations to a historic district, local law through zoning, and try to do a pattern book that gives us some general guidelines. Because I think that's gonna be a disaster.
You have to have a professional who could do that, who could write up the material. And it's just a local law that we're saying, all the 7 houses on Mill Street, which are not on the register, are very old, very critical buildings, and we want them in the bubble, even though they're not, in the village bubble, even though Albany and Washington haven't been proposed yet. And I said, it has to be contiguous. I said, well, then why don't we go up the hill from Rockefeller? There's like 8 houses to get to the Benner House, extend the district that way, and then say, okay, now it's
Take the
going
corner,
around
yeah.
Mill.
It made no sense. The whole thing is
But to John's suggestion, how would we initiate that as the planning board? So
You
we
would
have
write a letter.
the town board's taking the lead on Lydia and Brandt's project.
Yeah, but you guys as the planning board, as a body,
Right.
as an authority body of the, zoning code of the village of Rhinebeck, you guys can write a letter to the mayor and the trustee board voicing everything that you raised tonight.
Well, I think we
Put it
should.
all in a letter, you can give that to Lydia to present to the mayor and the trustee board for them to consider if they are starting these discussions or planning on public hearing to expand this historic district.
Well, the letter's the first part, but then what would be the hope that, what would we hope to accomplish? I mean, it seems like the heads in this room are the heads that we want very involved in that conversation, but then we have this quorum issue, I assume, right? If we're trying to work together to craft some legislation or give them guidance on what the pattern book should look like, or whether the district should be expanded to include things that are not National Register, or to exclude things that are National Register, and the other recommendations that were brought up. It's one thing to sort of say, you should do this, it's another thing to play a part in that process.
So probably
And-
you should lean on Lydia as the planning board's liaison, as she's our trustee and our liaison, and probably, flat out put it out there that,
Well, I guess the question is, can we do that? Like,
I think
would that ever
certain
be the
members-
result, or
I
are
think-
we in violation of some sort of sunshine law?
No, I think certain members can participate. I don't know if you can all participate as, one
But we could write a
board.
letter, from the planning board to, for the entire planning board. Because the last sentence, the village expects to consider zoning amendments to harmonize the requirements. I don't think that that's what, we need to make a priority. I think expanding the bubble and adding to the bubble even things that are not on the historic register, to try to just take the law into our own hands without having to go through the process is what we need to do, what John said.
And I think one or two members can volunteer, like,
Can you write down what you just said?
Yeah, but I can't do it until sort of probably end of December. I'm leaving
Oh,
for an extended Thanksgiving vacation in a few days. So I'm not going to be
Will you-
available until December. And then the first week of December is my busy time with my consulting work, so.
December 6th is the next planning board meeting?
for us, and then December.
22nd?
Maybe we can invite Lydia to come to the meeting and we can
Yeah.
talk to her and air it all out that way,
December
rather
3rd.
than writing a formal
well, she
letter.
was sick and now she's going on vacation till Thanksgiving. If she comes to December 6th, I can, right, I think she said she has limited access to internet or something, but I can reach out to her or send her the email to her and Gary and say, we had discussions about this, we have a lot of ideas, and we'd like to have it, if you can come to the December 6th
Yeah.
meeting,
Try that first.
we can express our feelings about things that would certainly help.
Yeah, unless somebody else wants to take on a memo writing role. But
I was thinking
I
an
think a
outline.
discussion might be easier to start with.
If we start with that, can Lydia come to the next meeting? Yeah, I'll write to the both of them.
And then the next meeting of the mayor and the trustees is December 13th.
Okay,
Right.
but I feel like we're gonna get dumped on here.
I think you're right. Money is pouring into the village. And, there's just going to be more of this.
Yes,
Money is like, money can destroy us. I mean, it's just, the unlimited funds that people have to do whatever they want to do is just,
Yeah.
it's just remarkable.
As an aside, before we dismiss, on January 11th, Bill Jeffway, the director of the Dutchess County Historical Society, is making a presentation on Rhinebeck's Oak Street and the history of that. If anybody, this is from Bard College Lifetime Learning Institute, so if any of you are interested, I can get you a guest login link.
He's doing it for us
It's gonna-
in, you didn't see it in the newsletter, but he's doing it for us in March. I think February is Will Tatum, and then Bill Jeffrey's going to talk about, he said, you're making all these presentations about
Yeah.
Oak Street. You
Yeah.
interviewed everybody, Michael Gee and everybody else. What about us? We're the Rhinebeck Historical Society.
Well-
This is my street. He
Yeah, this
said,
looks
"I'll
pretty
come and give a
interesting.
talk."
Did you know, Mike, about,
I knew he was doing it, but what
did you
was
know
the-
about Louisa, who was from the Florida Seminole community and lived on Oak Street?
I got something from him like over a month ago that was very, I mean, it was over an hour of looking at stuff. And then he
Yeah.
came to my house and he wanted to take a picture of the Celtic cross that was put in the chimney in my basement. And
Oh,
then there was like this long list, and most of them were blacks that lived there. And
Irish and,
Irish and black, yeah, I mean,
and Louisa the Seminole. Okay, sorry to,
what was the date on
but
that?
I digress. January 11th, 9 a.m.
Where's that gonna be?
It's going to be Zoom
Okay.
for Lifetime Learning Institute.
Then he's going to be on Zoom for us, talking about the same kind of stuff in April, I believe. Next month, we have David Turner, Lieutenant. North Hamlet, the Dutchess County, north and then south, two different programs, fabulous pictures the guy has. And he has these stereo things, and he's going to have a talk next, on Zoom. And then we have the head of the Poughkeepsie Library in January talking about famous murders in Dutchess County. We saw the back of the newsletter, has somebody being stabbed, a little etching that she has. And then Will Tatum's going to talk about the people of Wurtemberg, and then Bill Jeffrey's gonna talk about that. We have a lot of good stuff coming up.
Do we need to close the meeting before I stop the recording?
Yes, we close the meeting and stop the recording.
A motion to close the meeting?
Second, John.
All those in favor?
Aye.
All right, so everybody have a great Thanksgiving.
Wow.
Wow.
We really
The wor-
moved
An hour and
tonight.
10 minutes.